So hello and welcome everyone. If you're joining me currently, thank you for holding on while I just set up this live. So um, I hope you're having a lovely Friday evening, and thank you for taking the time to sort of join me on this interactive live. So today, I'm hoping that we can talk about the inner transformation and emotional healing journeys. So this is sort of an overview of what one can expect on this journey, how it looks like, what are the resistance that you might come up against, and how to clear some of these resistances, how to, you know, basically just to give you a little framework on how healing actually works. Because for a lot of us, when we come into this process, we come in sort of blind in a sense. We don't know how the process works. All we know is that we need healing and we need some sort of help to help us either with different issues, anxiety, depression, things that are affecting our lives, a bad experience, relationships, whatever it may be for you. So anyway, so that's a little bit of what we will go through today. I will leave this live up for the next few days or until next week, just to hopefully reach more people, and I hope that this serves you in the best way, that in the way that you need it to. And I hope that you take a few moments to consider some of the information that I will be sharing. Consider it with a little bit of openness and willingness, because it's just information. And when we are open to the information that we're receiving, we stand a better chance of either, discerning it from a more objective perspective. I know healing is not a term, it's often associated with very esoteric, woo-woo sort of um, aspects, but it is a very practical process that happens to us naturally, and we need to take the time to see what it's all about, right? So anyway, this is my first live, so please bear with me. If there's some technical difficulty or if I make mistakes. But anyway, thank you so much, and let's just begin. So before I move forward, this is a little bit about me. So my background is not in healing per se. I started off as a physicist. So my background, I did my degree in physics, and then I did my PhD in astrophysics. So it was during my degree, sort of partway through my degree, that I became certified as a pranic healer. Pranic healer is a very famous healing modality. Almost they have centers in every country. So take a moment to, if you're curious, you can take a moment to go and just Google that. So I was trained in pranic healing and arhatic yoga. And it is it is this modality that I use in my work when I'm working with people. It is also that my background in physics also helps me kind of make things a little bit more practical and a little bit more understandable in a sense. So it's not, healing is actually a science. We don't recognize it as that, but it is a science. There is a process, there is significant, you can see the impact that it has. Yes, we cannot see the emotional self. Yes, we cannot actually visually see the mental self, but we can understand them based on the effects that they have on our physical system, on our day-to-day lives. So that's how we can approach this at this time. So anyway, during my PhD, I struggled a lot, and that's how I came into this I needed to find a way to kind of heal myself. I needed to find a way to shift whatever I needed to shift, right? So if you're joining me at the moment, please feel free to leave a question or say hi. I would love to know who's watching as well. And feel free to interact partway through or anytime. There is a 20-second delay between the live on Zoom and the one on Facebook. So please bear with me if you are watching and asking questions. So anyway, just to come back, I needed healing for myself, and it was because of that that I began to explore different healing modalities over and above my own experience and my own pranic healing background. And it's been now many years since. So during that time, I discovered that I loved astronomy. That was one of my first passions, but I love working with people too. And so that's why I decided to make this my career and make that switch. It was not the easiest decision I made, but it was the one that helped me move forward in my life personally. Anyway, so the work I do today is the result of years of inner work combined with experience of working with people. I've been doing this officially for the past year, but I've been working with people much longer than that. Ever since I've been certified in some form or the other, I have been working with people. So what you see when you work with me, or what you will receive when you work with me, is years of that experience combined with all the development that comes with um, learning how to heal myself, learning how to work with people from different backgrounds, things like that. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. And if you're curious to know who I am and how I came into this line of work, then this was just to give you some information. Anyway, so let's get down to it. What is healing? So as I said before, not a lot of people resonate with healing because they are most often afraid. They think it's something sort of, woo woo. It's no one. It's not. It takes time for people to kind of digest and understand what healing really is. It is a therapy, but there are many ways to skin a cat, right? So therapy is one approach to healing. Therapy, I mean, going to a psychologist, going to a psychotherapist. If that is what you're doing and that resonates with you, perfect, then keep doing it, right? So for those of us who are not seeing a therapist but require some form of healing because we are feeling down in life, or we are facing anxiety, or we are having a difficult experience in a relationship, whatever it may be, all of that, the whole purpose of it is to heal within, right? Our emotional self needs to heal, our mind needs to heal in some form, if not directly our physical body, right? So what is healing? Before I talk about healing, I would like to address trauma. So trauma is the thing that you need to heal. Trauma is a wide range, right? You can have a very tiny trauma, like someone hitting you out of nowhere, maybe, or you can have a very big trauma. You were abused or tortured, those are extreme traumatic cases, but all of these are categorized as trauma. Trauma simply is an unresolved experience. So we go through an experience, but we never find inner resolution for it. There is no reconciliation. So if someone calls you a name, perhaps you're in school and you face a bully, and that bully calls you a name, or slaps you or something, and you go on with your life and never address that actual hurt that happens when the trauma went during that experience or because of that experience, then there is a part of the mind that isolates itself, because if something painful happens and we have no way of understanding it, dealing with it, or healing it, then the mind, in order for you to move on and carry on with your life, the mind kind of isolates that situation from you, kind of takes it into the subconscious, so you don't remember it, and so you can move on with your life. This doesn't happen so much with small traumas, it's very rare. But if you have a big trauma, like a breakup in a relationship, or being hurt by certain people, or something quite impactful that happens, then the mind does isolate it. And then what happens is there's a fragmentation within the mind, there's a fragmentation within the psyche. So that is when healing is called for. Healing simply means creating resolution. So if someone slaps you and bullies you, maybe you were a child and you have no way of understanding the situation or even giving yourself some kind of resolution for it, perhaps you just wanted that person to say sorry to you. If that person comes and says sorry to you, then that is some form of resolution, that the whole, that the experience comes full cycle, it comes back to normal. But if you were, if that situation was not resolved, that person didn't, there was no justice, then there is a trauma here that you need to address. So when you go forward in life, so keeping this trauma, so the mind has now isolated it, you go forward in life, lots of other things happen. You will come to a point where you meet a similar situation, someone else hits you or calls you a name or something. It is a similar situation, a similar experience. Then that same trauma, that memory of that trauma will be triggered, and that's what we call a trigger. It is a physical experience that triggers the memory of an older trauma, of an older experience. And it is this situation that calls for the healing. This means that healing is necessary now, or this is, in a way, the opportunity to heal, right? So you have a choice here. You can sit down and do the work to heal yourself, because you recognize this as a trigger. You recognize this as a memory that's resurfacing now, and then you can create internal resolution. Maybe you respond differently to this person who has called you a name. You can set a boundary, say, no, I don't appreciate being called this. Please don't speak to me this way. That is a different, now you have you are putting into the situation a different response, right? So in that way, you are creating some kind of a resolution. That is also healing. Internally, that is also healing. So it's simply completing a process, completing an emotional cycle where before you were left bereft, right, without any kind of resolution. Now you are creating some kind of resolution. So you're completing that process, that emotional cycle. So just to sum up, trauma is simply an experience that is unresolved. That trauma leads to pain in the future. When it sees a trigger, you will feel the same pain. And that pain catalyzes the healing. So this is basically how it looks like when the next time you see a trigger, that a trigger simply is a negative emotional response, and a negative, when I say negative, I mean an uncomfortable emotional response. Then you know there is a trauma somewhere as a memory that is coming up to the surface to be healed, to be cleared, to be released, to be resolved, whatever it is. So healing, actually, in very simple terms, is giving yourself the opposite of that experience. So if you experience pain, you want to give yourself relief from that pain. If you experience rejection, you want to give yourself belonging, right? So it is simply experiencing the opposite of what the trauma actually put you in the situation, right? And so it is also a way to meet your needs positively. And instead of getting your needs met by, ways that are not particularly healthy, you meet your needs directly and positively. So there are 3 steps to heal. First, you heal the experience. We will go through this in the next slide. First, you heal that experience, you cultivate or develop positive emotion, and you use that positive emotion to elevate and create improvement in your life. So this is a very rational approach. There's nothing esoteric or woo-woo about this. This is normally what people do when they heal. They just, it is just, I'm just giving you the framework of how it happens, what is happening. So the next time you're faced with this situation, you know, aha, this is what's going on. This is how I need to respond. I can do this, this, and this to help myself, right? So is this clear? Do you have any questions? Please feel free to ask. If not, I'll just move on to the next slide. So I mentioned in the previous slide, to heal is to experience the opposite. But where do I start? Right? So this is also very simple. To experience the opposite, you simply have to follow your emotional north. Your emotional north is just this progression right here that you see. First, it is relief, then it goes to peace, then you feel happiness, that progresses to joy, and that progresses to excitement and desire. When you've reached sort of the excitement and desire stage, or sort of even the joy stage, you're already on the path of improvement. You already reconcile the old trauma. That part of you is mostly healed, right? So this is all you need to go through. So whatever you do, whenever you're experiencing that pain, maybe you recall the memory of that trauma, you're experiencing that pain. Now, all you have to do is sit with yourself and express that pain. Expression is how we heal the emotional body, right? Once it is expressed, we express it in many ways. We either write it down or journal it. We can tell someone about it. We can sit with our emotions, just sort of meditate on observing our emotions. Don't become your emotion, observe them from an external perspective and see how they feel. See how this emotion makes you feel inside. What does it do to your body? That sort of thing. And sometimes we cry, sometimes we, different ways of expressing your emotion. You will know what feels right for you and you will do it. Sometimes it's different at different times, right? So anyway, once you do that, you will begin to feel relief. Relief is that letting go of baggage. And you will know if you've cried before, you will know that feeling, after you had a big cry, and that feeling of just inner peace and release, that is that relief. Once you feel that, you will begin, if you sit with that for a while, you will begin to feel peace. Peace is that feeling of settling down into that space. So with all the junk, with trauma and the pain have it's like you're carrying baggage with you. Once you let go of that, there's a lot of space that's created, right, internally. Peace is that receding into that space, just embodying that space. Now there's nothing within, it's just peaceful inside. Anyway, after that, you move into happiness. Happiness is that silver lining, right? It's a silver lining, or it's a little kiss at the end of a text message. It's that little hug you need that comes out of nowhere, right? It is just that little touch of sweetness that is added to your peace. That is happiness. When you feel and integrate happiness, integrating means bringing it into yourself, experiencing it as part of you, then you begin to feel joy. Joy is a sense of well-being. Well-being, nourishment moving outward, right? That is joy. It's a sense of overflowing happiness. It is ready to move forward. And once you're there, you will begin to feel excitement and desire. Excitement and desire is just an indication that you're ready to move forward in life. You're ready to change direction. If you were stuck on a path before, now you can change and move into a better direction. Now you can experience a different kind of life. So with excitement comes desire, desire for a particular experience, desire for a particular adventure. It is just that desire and appetite for life, right? That's when you know you're in the path of healing. You're already healed. You're moving into transformation. Okay, so let's if you have any questions, again, please feel free to ask. If you're joining us, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And let me just move on to the next slide. So experiencing the opposite. So this is just from the previous slide. Trauma is your experience, an unresolved experience that feels like pain. It usually is an uncomfortable feeling and quite uncomfortable for most of us. And that triggers the healing, that catalyzes the healing. Whenever you feel pain, whenever you feel either pain physically, emotionally, or mentally, you know it's time to heal. You know there's something starting to, there's a healing cycle coming about, right? So healing simply means experiencing the opposite. Like I said, if rejection was your trauma, then belonging is your healing. If some kind of the many different types of things that we can experience, right? Feeling abandoned, unloved. Shame is also a big trauma for a lot of us. You know, if you're from my generation, back in from Malaysia, you know that your teachers hit you when you were young, right? So when you're in primary school, teachers are, you know, very excited of hitting you and punishing you and all that. So children actually carry a lot of these tiny, tiny traumas that they don't realize they're carrying up until they grow up and they realize, oh no, you know, why do I have this sense of shame? Where did this shame come from? Where does this rejection come from? Where does this fear of being punished come from? It comes from childhood. All of it comes from when we were young, right? And so whatever it is, you just want to experience the opposite. And deep down, if you sit with yourself for a while, you'll know what that opposite is. It's often different for different people, but the general thing is love, joy, acceptance, belonging. Those sort of things are the opposite of trauma, right? Um, so what do you want to do? When you've started the process of healing, you want to learn to nurture within yourself what you wish to heal. So let's say you have gone through a healing process and you are now feeling the relief, you're feeling the happiness, you're feeling that sense of peace. Now you want to work with that peace, you want to work with that sense of happiness, and you want to cultivate more of it. We cultivate it by letting it sit within our being or integrating more of it within our being. So if you pay attention to something, it grows, right? Anyone who has anxiety, who's a warrior or overthinker, I am also one of these, you will know that if you think a negative or uncomfortable thought, it will lead to another negative or uncomfortable thought. That will lead to another negative or uncomfortable thought until you're down on a big spiral, right? And that just means that whatever you pay attention to grows. Whatever you keep your mind on or your attention on grows. Can we do the same thing with positive emotion? Definitely, definitely. So use whatever thing that's going on the negative side of the spectrum and just bring it to the positive side. If you've ever, children, you can see this very well with children. If they are happy, they get more and more happy. If they're running around and they're running around, you can see the happiness and joy in them, and that sort of progresses into more joy and more joy until they get tired, of course. But when you are experiencing joy and you're paying attention to the joy you're experiencing, it will grow within you, and that's the cultivation. So whenever you're experiencing joy in your life now, allow it to grow within you. Pay more attention to it. See how it feels in the body. See the things that you're doing physically in real life that's giving you that joy, giving you that nourishment. Do more of it. That's why people have a gratitude journal, because they recognize the things that give them joy. And with that, the feeling of joy begins to grow. So appreciating what you have, appreciating that healing that's happened, appreciating the positive emotion that you're carrying helps that, it cultivates more and more of that. And what you cultivate is yours, because none of this is physically, it's not a physical thing, it's not temporary, it's within you. So you will always have it, right? So cultivate that joy. Everything begins with a positive thought. It evolves into a feeling, and then it sort of integrates itself as an emotion in the body. Emotion is something we experience physically. A feeling is more of an abstract concept. We'll talk about this more in future videos. I don't want to get into too much detail, but anyway, if it is love you wish to have, then you have to cultivate more love. You feel love towards yourself first, or you can look at someone you really love in your life, your children, your parents, your pet, your dog, your cat, whatever it is, whatever you love dearly. We all have something we love dearly, whether it is ourselves or someone else. Use that to kind of catalyze that feeling of love. So start with small things. You don't need to, I want to experience great love. No. Start with small things. I just want to enjoy my cup of coffee. I just want to enjoy my cup of tea. These are small things, but the love contained, giving yourself that nourishment, giving yourself that time to enjoy is a great thing. And so another easy way to trigger this process of cultivating good feeling is to give to others. Give to others anything, even a small thing, even a smile. You can just smile at someone on the street and see how that makes you feel. And making someone else happy, a lot of, this is a famous saying, right? When you make someone else happy, you feel happy. And it's very true. When you make someone else happy, that happiness has to come back to you in some form. You will always receive a smile back, or every good deed is reciprocated, right? So start with something small, and if you really can't think of anything, then just start by giving to others small things. Just start there. Okay, so if you have any questions, just stop me and send me a comment or feedback. And then let's move on to the new slide. So, we talked about to heal, to cultivate, and to elevate. So once you have begun to cultivate to a decent degree some kind of positive emotion, or the things you wish to generally have within you, right? The emotional states you generally wish to have within you, then you can elevate, creating improvement in your life, either internally or physically. So healing and transformation Well, it is about experiencing the opposite. What is the opposite? Opposite is something new that you're bringing in. So it is bringing in new energy. And it's very important at this stage to find ways to leave your comfort zone. Take little tiny steps towards um, new things, new habits, new experiences, new adventures. Take little steps. I'm a creature of habit myself, so I know how hard it can be to leave a habit, but try it as a self-care thing, or try it as a self-love thing. Try something new, and it works something like this. If you have a pot of hot water, and then you pour in cold water, suddenly it reaches a new temperature. The energetic um, particles in the water changes, right? So the energy changes simply by adding in something new. Emotions work in a very similar way. Emotions are very fluid. They tend to mix and mingle amongst each other. So you often see an emotion of sadness can, have you heard this word, right? You all have bittersweet. It's a little bit sad, but it's a little bit sweet. Yes, because emotions have the great tendency to kind of take on and and maintain two or three states at the same time. You can feel a little bit sad, you can feel a little bit happy at the same time, right? So introduce happy things, introduce new energy, new emotions, and that will in a way shift the old ones. That will kind of cause the old ones to realign to a new state in the same way, just like how, pouring cold water into hot water or vice versa. And allow yourself to take risks. Risks are a very big thing. A lot of us we have big fear of going outside of comfort zone and taking risks. But risk means bringing in new energy. Risk means we are now thinking outside the box. And when we trigger a different part of the mind, or we activate a different part of the mind, we are not in that negative cycle or negative loop anymore. If we are functioning under trauma, if you're having anxiety or feeling depressed, then if you try something new, it almost shifts the energy immediately. So take risks, because that activates a different part of the psyche, a different part of the mind, and that will in some ways change your internal energy field, or internal, like it will change the vibrations of your emotions and your mind to focus on something else, focus on something new. So get creative. Try artistic things, go for a walk in nature, try something new. Take a shower, do a self-care routine, right? Whatever it is, you will know what you need by simply just tuning in. And so let's move on, because I don't want to spend too much time. So before I move on to the big picture, these are some of the hurdles that you will experience along the path. For those of us who have been healing for a while, there are many cycles of these, right? So it is not healing is not easy when you are starting. Healing is quite challenging, and it requires great strength and great fortitude to actually begin the process. This is when you're beginning. It's not going to be like this all the time. But it is not easy, and it is not straightforward. In the beginning, because we're coming in blind, and that's the whole reason why I am doing this series of videos, to let it become straightforward for you, so to actually at least give you an idea of some of the things you can expect, so then it's not as challenging, it's not as daunting. So healing is the shedding of old skin. What we are doing is peeling off layers of this old trauma that we have accumulated. So have you ever met a person who you can spend hours with them, but not know them at all? Like you try to get to know them, but you cannot see past their barriers. Why? Because they have accumulated all these walls and all these it's a kind of defense mechanism that people have, and they put it up when they meet other people, because there is a lot of trauma deep within that you can't that a person speaking to them can't actually see through or can't actually go through, right? And we all have this to a certain degree, and what we are trying to do by healing is to allow for that shedding, leaving away all these grime and dust and old skin that we have accumulated because of years and years of experiences that we have not resolved, right? So um, another thing that comes as a big thing is unhealthy patterns. That's why if you are a creature of habit, go outside of your comfort zone just a little bit. One step at a time. You don't have to climb Mount Everest, right? Out the gate. You just have to do one thing that is outside of your comfort zone. If you're going to Starbucks every day for a cup of coffee, go to a different coffee shop. That's also changing your energy. It's a very tiny thing, but it's changing that energy. So um, unhealthy patterns are things like overthinking, worrying. I know I've done this many times. Sometimes I still struggle with this. So these are things that when we start to get aware of it, we have power to change it. And that is the most important thing, is to become empowered enough to have mastery over your mind, because for most of us the mind is running the show. We are not, and we are simply swaying like an autumn leaf in the wind based on the flutters of the mind. And so we don't want that. Resistance is the number one hurdle on the path towards healing. Resistance can come in many ways. Fear is a resistance. Overthinking is a resistance. If you, let's say you wanted to, speak in public, and there's a past trauma that, um, something happened when you spoke in public as a child, or as a teenager, and you couldn't get past that, and ever since then you have a fear of speaking in public. Now, how does resistance show up? The next time someone asks you to speak in public, you have this stage fright, or some people begin to they need to throw up or something. They have they have a very physical reaction to meeting that fear. That is resistance. So resistance can show up in almost everything. The actual hurdle on this path is resistance. It shows up in a number of ways. So that's just to make it very clear and very simple. The other thing is, we talked about this before, comfort zone, your familiarity. Have you ever noticed that if you've been sad for a while, and like days and days you've been sad because you've had a bad experience, and you've been so sad that suddenly one day something good happens, you don't want to leave that sad place? Have you ever experienced that? If you have, you know how the familiarity of something, even something so not the healthiest, like sadness, is not the healthiest feeling, right? It's not the most comfortable one. Even that becomes okay for us because we are so afraid to experience the opposite. And we become so familiar with this negative routine, this negative side. A lot of us are stuck in this, me included. In the beginning, I was so stuck in my own thinking, in my own sadness, that I couldn't see past it for a while, until I told myself, this is ridiculous. Once I saw that it felt easier to stay in sadness than seek the help that I needed, I started to laugh, because how ridiculous is that? You know you want to be happy, yet the feeling of sadness, the feeling of the sameness of it, the familiarity of it is feels safer. So this is when safety is not positive, right? So I'm saying this so that you recognize when you see it, and you recognize um, when you observe it, you can kind of know, and then you have to ask yourself, now I recognize this as the familiarity, the comfort zone feeling, but I need to move past it. That's when it takes guts. That's when it takes strength and fortitude and courage to, just come out. So start small, take different small steps. If you're in this position, take small steps first out of your comfort zone, then you can take bigger ones, right? So anyway, those are the hurdles along the path. And just this, I'm almost getting towards the end here. The healing process is an upward spiral. It's expansive and tends towards health and well-being. So if you split this graph into half, you will, like, sort of the right-hand side is a positive and the left-hand side is a negative. Then you will notice that the healing part, you have to go through it a few times, go through this spiral. Transformation goes through this spiral. And it is always upward moving. So your situation, your third experience of a memory of an old trauma will be better than your second experience of it. Your fourth experience of it will be better than the third. So, but you will go through this process. So as you saw, relief, peace, happiness, joy, and excitement, you will go through the process. Excitement is on the positive end, right? And then as you experience more and more excitement, you go into a new adventure, you find this new thing that you like. You will be in that space for a while. And then after a while, you'll move into the negative part of the spiral. You will start to experience the old emotions cropping up, the old anxieties, the old fears starting to rise again. That's when you are on the opposite side, on the negative side. That's when you need to do healing again. That's when you need to do your work again. And then do your work, experience a relief, peace, happiness, joy, excitement. You'll move into the positive. You'll be in the positive. You'll seek out a new experience. And then the cycle continues. At some point, healing doesn't resonate anymore. It'll be more about transformation. You're not looking back so much, as in you're trying to look for things that you resonate more with in life, and that's when the transformation process begins to happen. So transformation is simply an improvement of our quality of our inner life and quality of our external life, right? So the time that it takes to move up this scale is determined primarily on your resistance. So your resistance comes in many forms: limiting beliefs, the intensity of your trauma, the experiences that you're currently having. How does that play into the old paradigm? So yeah, the time is flexible and it's not flexible. So it does depend on your resistance and your willingness to do the work, right? The more you are unwilling to do it, the longer it will take. If you have been on this path, you will notice that. So all of us, 7.5 billion people on this planet, we are all somewhere here. The heart at the bottom with pixels still not put in place properly. We are all there. What we are trying to do is bring these pieces back together until we form a full, complete being, right? So to sum up, work with what you have and where you are. Wherever you are, beginning this process, that's it. That's where you are. It doesn't matter. Work with what you have at that point. Work with the experiences you have. Work with the trauma that's resurfacing. Just work with what you have. and follow your emotional north. So, so this is just a brief, just to encourage you a little bit. Transformation is simply moving from fear to freedom, pain to possibility, limitation to liberation, loneliness to laughter, and healing to hope. So you always want to be moving in a more positive direction. You always want to be improving. And so, and that's it. That's it for today. If you're interested in working with me, I do several different types. I have several different offers. I do one-to-one coaching and mentorship. I do emotional healing. And I do weekly meditation and mindfulness classes. So this is more of people who just want a group healing, or you just want to experience something positive. Then feel free to contact me, leave a message, leave a comment, send me a message. So discover the you that's waiting to shine. And I think that's that for today. If you're catching this replay, thank you very much. And I hope this serves you. And I will see you next week. And next week, we're going to discuss acceptance and gratitude. So that is a catalyst for healing. We'll talk about more about that next week. Anyway, thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate your strength for doing this work, and all the very best. Thank you very much.